Channel 5 Network. This is Morning Line.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? Nick Barris here. This is Morning Line. It is a Wednesday. We're never trying to be predictable on this show, so sometimes we flip-flop things around. And as you know, if you're a regular viewer to this program, we usually do open phones on Thursday. Today, we're going to do open phones on Wednesday. We'll have something else tomorrow. We're kind of flip-flopping it, but certainly the same format rules today, where we'll take calls from you on whatever's on your mind this morning. You know, as always, I'm going to set the table with maybe some topics you'd like to sound off on. There were several, actually. Mary Elena did a great job pulling up some of the stories of the past week that actually were on my mind that I have an opinion about, and I'll share it with you, and then you can jump in as well. But whatever news of the past week or beyond, or whatever's on your mind, if you'd like to talk about, jump in. The number 737-7587. Open Phones Wednesday. Is that okay with you? Look, these open phone shows are among my favorite anyway, provided we get phone calls from you, and we always do. So if you get a chance, join in the conversation. Let's see. What do we want to start with today? I mean, there's all kinds of news that I want to throw out for you, but Mary did a great job of pulling some video on some stories that are both local and some that are more national. And let's start with the local stuff on this lightning video. I mean, we've all had storms go through our neighborhoods. Sometimes we may grab the camera and shoot it. This was in our viewing area yesterday, shooting the rain. Boom! That was a bolt of electricity, a lightning that came down in the couple's front or backyard there. I know that they contacted the station, and fortunately, obviously, they were okay, but you could see the effect it had on the video. And they said that that actually knocked them both back into the doorway of their home. They weren't electrocuted, but the sheer force of that electricity. I think that was up in the Kentucky area yesterday. And anyway, thankfully, despite a lot of talk of some severe weather yesterday, a few places had it. Certainly the Midwest outside our viewing area had some really bad stuff. But this is about as bad as it got yesterday, and they were not harmed. But boy, what's the closest you've ever been to a lightning bolt? You know, we used to have a photographer here, Fred Skipworth. Great, wonderful guy. He's been retired now for several years. And I'm not sure. Some of the other photographers would remember specifically, but I think he had been hit by lightning 3 times. I mean, we always talk about, oh, the chances of that are about the same as getting hit by lightning. Not with Fred Skipworth. When storms came around, we all gave him a wide berth. We didn't want to be close to Fred. I remember him telling me once about how he got not a direct bolt hitting him in the head or something, but he was near enough that the electricity went into his body. And you know how you're wearing jeans sometimes that have the metal studs on the side, and he had coins in his pocket? Because of that, after the force of the electricity went through him, you know, he wasn't seriously hurt, but that night when he was changing and he took off his pants, he looked, and where the coins were in his pocket, the electricity had gone through, heated the coin, and they had burned his leg. Amazing stuff. And to get hit by lightning or be affected by it once, like that couple in that video, is a big deal. To get hit by lightning 3 times, and I do believe it was 3 for Fred. Keep in mind, a lot of times he was sent out into storms because of the nature of this job that made him more at risk. But still, I've been out there, and I've never, knock on wood, been close to a lightning bolt. But wow, something scary. All right, a couple other stories, you know, just with video we want to show you. And, you know, feel free to sound off on the lightning video. But did you hear about this lawsuit being filed by a sleeping fan during a baseball game being televised by ESPN? Look at this guy here. He was asleep. And the 2 commentators during this Yankees-Red Sox game, I think it was the past weekend, kept making comments about him. And I feel that when he came to later and heard about the comments, I guess he felt they were derogatory, and he ended up filing a lawsuit against the commentators for making cracks about him sleeping at a baseball game. And while to some degree I feel sorry for him being caught on national TV in that unflattering position, what do you think? Does he have grounds to sue? The details of what the commentators said, yeah, were they kind of making fun of him? Absolutely. Some of what he filed in the lawsuit, making claims that they said they did not say. I think they made some reference perhaps to his weight or something, and I didn't hear any indications of that during the conversation with the commentators, but they were making fun of a guy falling asleep there. My take is that while it was certainly embarrassing for him, and in a way I feel sorry that he was singled out like that, and he's just sleeping at a game. Heck, I've been to games boring enough as they are that I've fallen asleep as well. But you know what? He's in a public place, no reasonable expectation of privacy. I don't think they libeled him in any way. Did they hold him up to ridicule? I guess that's something that could be decided if this case ever goes to court. Just wondered what you thought of that. And another video to show you now that I think is much more serious topic. This is the California beating video involving a woman on the side of the interstate with a law enforcement officer. You've by now seen this. It's made national headlines. It was on again this morning. There is the officer hitting this woman at the side of the interstate as traffic's going by. And the family, of course, is now very upset. The woman suffered some abrasions to her face and injuries. She was not seriously injured. What do you think of that? I think most of us in this business, knee-jerk reaction when you immediately see something like this. Yes. And do I feel that officer, maybe because of adrenaline or whatever, was going too far there? Yeah, I think he probably was. If that was my mother or my daughter being pummeled like that, I'd say, you know what, you needed to get more control. You didn't need to overdo it. But, and I've done enough of these stories where sometimes the video catches law enforcement officers in the moment and it doesn't tell the whole story. And I am inclined sometimes to give police officers the benefit of the doubt. What I think happened there and what we heard happened is that this woman, who I think had some mental issues, was wandering along the side of the interstate, wandering into the traffic, creating a safety hazard both for herself, she could have been killed, and the other motorists. This officer sees it, tries to confront her to get her off. She pushes off and gets confrontational, okay? At this point, on the side of the interstate where it's a very, very dangerous situation, they're just feet from vehicles going past them, the officer decides to take her down. She's resisting, okay? I have no problem with him taking her down right there on the spot. Now, what I do have a problem was, you could tell her arms were going up and she was still trying to strike back at him. I think because of adrenaline, because of the location of where he was at, I think he went too far with his punching, okay? But it wasn't to the point where I'd say that is just way, way over the top. And I've seen cases where it's way over the top. I try to put myself in the officer's shoes. Here's a woman who's out of her head, putting not only herself but others at risk, and she's resisting. And they are both, including the officer on the side of this interstate, okay, knowing that if, he's trying to stop her and he tries to take it delicately and she shoves him, he's out in the traffic getting hit. Or vice versa. She runs from him, causes an accident, and other people get hurt. And at this point, I don't believe the officer has been reprimanded. I think they're looking at the situation. It's under review. The family's certainly upset, but look at it again. There, the repeated hitting, and she is resisting. Her hand's going up. Now she's covering up. At that point, okay, enough. And he keeps going. There, that point there, 2, 3 more. Keep in mind the climate of the moment, the adrenaline rolling, the fact that she had been resisting and that she's out of her head. I cut the officer some slack there. I do. Again, don't get me wrong. I think he probably went a little bit too far. Maybe needs to get some more training on those things. But don't tell me this was some absurd case of police brutality that was completely out of control in the context of it. And keep in mind, we did not see video of earlier of the way she may have resisted. That's just my take. And maybe there's more to this. What do you think? You've seen the video. If for you it's cut and dry, he was way over the top, I can see where you're coming from. I tend to see it from both sides on this. So if you'd like to comment on that as well. Look, I have other things. The last thing I'm going to throw out to you, many of you followed the World Cup. Many of you stopped after the U.S. lost. Others didn't give a hoot about it in the first place. But all I can say is, for someone who's not the biggest fan of soccer simply because there's no scoring, I got a healthy dose of it yesterday in that Germany-Brazil game. And to me, the drama beyond just the game of soccer, watching the home country that's hosting the World Cup, Brazil, the proudest country when it comes to soccer. They've won 5 World Cups, more than any other country, getting obliterated at home on a field that they haven't lost on since the 70s by the Germans, 7-1. That was something to watch. That entire country's in mourning. There were riots afterwards. Good for the Germans. Brazil, I think those players ultimately felt the pressure of playing at home, and they collapsed. You want to comment on that? All right, the number is 737-7587. Lots more to talk about, as well as later in the show, we're going to throw up some video of the new ballpark going in right behind us here at the station at the old site of Sulphur Dell for the Nashville Sounds. We want to show you what that ballpark looks like. They have a mock-up computer generated of that. We'll show you that later in the show. You can give us your take, but it looks really cool. Looks really cool. All right, before we go to our first break, let's squeeze in Joe. Joe, good morning.
Good morning, Nick.
Hey, Joe, what's on your mind, my friend?
Oh, man, I just listened to your lady. And
yeah.
I had another couple of things I was going to
Sure.
on this highway patrolman beating a lady.
Yeah.
I don't know where most people probably never had the opportunity to deal with an unstable person, a mentally unstable person, but they can be very dangerous to themselves and others. And if you're fooling with somebody on the interstate, I mean, you know, you can tell what things that's going on here about a policeman getting run over. And
Sure, it's extremely dangerous. Extremely dangerous.
And the key thing that I saw on your tape was there appeared to be a citizen coming in at the very end.
You can play it again if you want. Yeah, you're right. That after someone comes to help him, I think.
Right. And why was that? If the situation wasn't completely out of control, and the last I heard on it, if I remember correctly, they gave this highway patrolman 30 days off with pay.
Yeah, they're looking into it. And like I said, I think the argument can be made, you know, he took a few swings too many, which I attribute to the stress of the moment and the side of the interstate, and he was alone, and this was a woman who was needing some psychiatric help. Now, we'll say this. The woman suffered some bumps and bruises, Joe, but she was not seriously injured. Certainly her family has been on the media now and has been very upset about it, and I can say, I think I'd be upset. If that were a loved one of mine, I would have hated seeing that video. So I think maybe he went a little bit too far, but I'm trying to take it in the context of the moment.
I understand.
Yeah.
The second thing is the Piercy case. I think you got a letter on it the other day.
Oh, that's right. The Holly Bobo case, the Piercy brothers supposedly having the video. Yeah, good. Go ahead. What do you want to say about that?
Well, if I understand it, what I heard on the letter was it was his brother, I believe it was, that had took a video, but it was of his girlfriend, and she bore a resemblance to Holly Bobo. But I think the guy that they've had in court so much, been on TV, they have really messed this guy up. And as far as I'm concerned, the TBI just wore this thing out. I don't think they've got a case, and I think they're searching, and I think they got a court hearing, I believe it's this week, that if they don't come up with something better than what they've got, they're going to have to drop all the charges against this guy. But they've done messed his life up.
You know what, Joe, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was the other story. It was a big story I had on Monday, the latest on the Holly Bobo case, and Joe is right. The 29th will be the next hearing, and our understanding is the charges against the Piercy brothers, both of whom were brought in, charged with, among other things, I think, tampering with evidence or destroying evidence, and this, they thought, or what we've heard, may have had some connection with some cell phone video that perhaps showed Holly Bobo after her abduction that could have played a key role in this. And so they were arrested with the belief that maybe they had disposed of this video or they were hiding it. All right. Now, our indications are, and again, there may be a video out there that shows Holly Bobo, but to this point, it's all been rumors. And my sources have told me that there was a video that a confidential informant may have tipped the TBI to, and this CI thought it showed Holly. But it actually showed one of the Piercy brothers, I believe Mark Piercy, in a video with an ex-girlfriend who is blonde and resembles Holly. And he has, I understand, turned over all his cell phones to the TBI, said, have at it, open it up, you can look. There's no video on there of Holly. If you find any video, it's going to be me and my blonde girlfriend who may look a little like her. So whoever's giving you this information, it's bad info. Now, is that the case? The TBI will not comment. They haven't commented, and I understand why they won't. But that's the indication. And we've heard through more than one source that the charges against the Piercy brothers may be completely dropped come February 28th or 29th when there's a hearing. And if that happens, it's probably because they've discovered that there isn't any evidence in this case, no video, nothing that we can charge them with. And I agree with Joe. If that's true, one Piercy brother is still in trouble on gun charges. He's being held in Jackson on federal charges. He's got his share of other criminal issues. Not the best guy, it doesn't sound like. But his brother, who was dragged into this, I agree with Joe. I mean, his name will be forever associated with this Bobo case. And if they drop the charges, he's tainted by it. I feel bad for him, and that's why we'll continue to follow if they're dropped. But gosh, this case, more twists and turns. The evidence in this case, what does the TBI really have against Zach Adams and Jason Autry, the two suspects charged with her murder? Trying to build the case. The pressure's on. We'll take a break. When we come back, if you're on hold, stay there. The number 737-7587. Open phones Wednesday. What's on your mind? Your calls till 9 o'clock right after this.